we've read the Inspector General's report, and I think it's important to take both of those reports that were given, both the midterm report and the final report. And some of those things are concerning enough with the gross negligence, incompetence, and the things that have been said. And I'm appreciative of the 40 corrective measures, and we've talked about improving the process, rigor, accountability, tone at the top. You've said the conduct was unacceptable. How we do what we do matters. Process matters, process and policy changes. But I have one of the things that I have a little concern with, actually a significant concern with, is when you take all of those institutional mistakes, or however you want to frame them, in those two reports. Typically, when you have that kind of systemic breakdown or those types of issues, mistakes fall randomly across the process. And that didn't happen here. You will be hard-pressed for you to point out a mistake that was made that wasn't either against President Trump or, in some cases, the benefit to candidate Clinton. Throughout the entire report, there is not a real randomization of those mistakes. And that's what I'm concerned about. And what I'm concerned about is this wasn't just a failure of process. This was a failure of people. And I'm not going to ask you to go back because I would like to, but I think I know what my answers are going to be. So when we're talking about these 40 corrective actions and the things that we are doing, moving forward in any case as we continue to go forward, how are the penalties being imposed? Because you can have 250 institutional safeguards, but if there isn't real consequences to those safeguards, then we don't have a real solution to the problem. Because I don't want to talk about political bias. I mean, I would prefer to have a hearing for 3 days on it. But for the purposes of this question, I don't care what the motivations were. I just know that people, either by omission or by intention, lied to a court on a sworn document that if that would happen to any other citizen, they would be charged with a crime. And while there are plenty of reasons to allow people to resign quietly, there are reasons to have people have internal disciplinary actions in their files. When you're dealing with a secret court and secret warrants, and in probably the most politically charged case that court has ever happened, it's important that those institutional safeguards exist. It's important for a guy like me to think, because if they didn't exist there, I don't know what's happening in the other cases as well. So I'm glad you're putting these resources in place. I am glad you are putting all of these procedural safeguards in place, but I would like to have a conversation about what are the consequences for those not happening.
So we have a fairly robust disciplinary arm, our Office of Professional Responsibility, which I think in general is viewed within the government, the broader U.S. government, as one of the premier independent disciplinary arms in any executive agency. And that is the arm through which we apply discipline in response to misconduct or, in some cases, poor job performance even. And the penalties range from across.
I want to stop there. Poor job performance, I'm not getting into that. Quite frankly, I can't imagine managing 37,000 people. But when I'm talking about misconduct, I just hope we're holding ourselves accountable to the same thing we're holding other people accountable for.
Well, I can assure you, without getting into specific examples, that I can think of just during my time as director where I have seen conduct that our people have been disciplined for that no one else in the government would have been disciplined for. So I think we hold ourselves to an even higher standard, and there's no one who deplores falling short of that standard more than I do.
And I'll just end with this quickly, and I hope that's the case, because it sure seems like when we get into these situations, somebody looking at it from the other side, that we allow people to resign quietly or move into different areas, and then we come to hearings and we say we can't talk about internal disciplinary proceedings. When I think you're going to ask us a lot of things coming up. We have the FISA reauth coming. We are going to continue to have conversations about facial recognition. We are talking about encryption as it goes. And one of the things we have to do is not only know that we have the procedural safeguards, but the people are doing this will be held accountable, whether that's internally, externally, or even in a court of law.